Hey, good afternoon to you. Mark out of HurricaneTrack here. Monday now, the 10th of February, 2025. Great to be back with you here on this nice Monday morning. Hey, it's nice as long as you got up and got out of bed. You made it to another day. I consider that pretty nice, especially in this day and age, right? Absolutely. And thus, we got a lot to talk about. The main graphic, let me drop me out just for a second. Mid-Atlantic snowstorm. I put that up there because that's what I'm going to be covering. I can't be everywhere. So I figured, hey, let me cover the one that's closest to me. We're going to talk about that. Plus, it's the most immediate. That's coming up tomorrow and into a little bit of Wednesday. But yeah, we got a mid-Atlantic snowstorm coming up, plus a lot more. Nation's midsection is going to get some snowy weather. Very cold air draining in again into the lower 48. Out west, we're going to get a pretty big storm system out there. And Las Vegas, guess what? You're going to finally break your dry streak. The rain is coming, high elevation snows. Southwest Utah, for example, boy, that's going to be beautiful up in the Snow Canyon area, parts of the Wasatch. Oh, I wish I could be there too, but I can't, so I'll just watch it on social media. Hey, whatever you can't do in person, that FOMO, fear of missing out, don't worry, it's all out there on social media. You just got to know where to look. So speaking of knowing where to look, let's take a look at the National Weather Service homepage, a good place to start with today's update. A few areas to point out. And I like this because this is the immediate. This is now. This is what's happening right now. This is not a forecast. So here's where we are. Some lake effect and pretty substantial lake effect coming off of Ontario up here. Winter storm watches and even some flood issues in and around parts of Kentucky and eastern Tennessee. Then we've got the winter storm watches in the nation's midsection. That's the telltale sign of Arctic air draining down into the lower 48 here. I mean, when you get extreme cold warning for the northern border states, that's saying something, absolutely. And then finally out west, we're starting to see the signs of a big storm coming in. The Sierra, you're going to get a lot of snow, good amount of precip, including low elevation rain in the desert southwest. And boy, do they need it out there. The one thing we don't see on this map that I'm definitely going to address as we go forward, and it's a very serious situation, potentially, once we get into the weekend, looking like on Saturday, and I may do another update about this on Thursday, just want to keep people aware. You remember, because of this thing right here, we got so much coming at us every single day that the weather sometimes gets lost in all that noise, and we just got to make sure people are aware. And to that end, it looks like a pretty significant severe weather outbreak for parts of the deep south Saturday, and I'll show you that as we go in deeper into today's update. All right, satellite loop this afternoon. There is our thermal boundary up here. It's a good way to call it. It's basically the overrunning moisture coming out of the subtropical jet from the Pacific. The Arctic air is going to be draining down this way, and you got some cold air damming over here from more pretty deep cold air on the east side of the Appalachians especially. And all of that's going to set up to give us a pretty darn active pattern as we go forward. And I can show you that on the old 12Z GFS here. So right now, things are more or less, and you can even see it just by the height lines on here and the thicknesses, things are generally zonal. And what I mean by that, let's go back up and look at the upper part of the atmosphere. And you can see it pretty easily right there. Zonal, meaning it's basically west to east. No major dips in the jet stream right now. But that is going to change as we drain that cold air. I mean, look at that, 1052 millibar high just north of Montana there over into the Canadian prairies. Like, that's a very stout, huge piece of cold Arctic air that is going to be sinking down into the lower 48, almost quite literally, because the cold air does kind of spread out like thick molasses across the tabletop. Good way to visualize that. So let's look at the pattern over the next few days and look how that jet stream does buckle. But, and I'm going to use the color black here to really define this, it is not digging all the way down into the Gulf like we saw in recent years or recently, all the way back to January, right? We saw a very steep dip in the jet, but this is going to be enough right here to drain plenty of Arctic air to give the northern part of the country still a lot of winter weather to come, and the south should stay pretty good. Look, there's that southeast ridge, or western Atlantic ridge, whatever you want to call it. It's off the southeast coast, that's for sure. And when I show you what that has done to the Gulf temperatures, wow. I mean, at the end of today's update, I got a surprise for you, that's for sure. So let's back this up a little bit and go back to the base map. And let's just get it started here. There we go. So here's what it looks like if we look at the greens and the blues, which on Dr. Cowan's map, green is your liquid precip, blues, and then different variations, of course, are your frozen precip with some stuff in between. So move this forward. The first storm comes in through the mid-Atlantic with your frozen precip, and I'm going to go up there and cover that. I'll talk about that more in a moment. To the south of the heavier snow, and it's going to be a wet snow. Definitely some good snowball making the storm system coming up. But in the Piedmont and the foothills area here, the Virginia and North Carolina border, more frozen precip, and then some pretty heavy rain. This is a classic overrunning system here with very cold air, well, fairly cold air anyway. I don't know, I mean, we went from like 80 yesterday in most of the Carolinas to 40s and 30s and even upper 20s eventually up here. I guess that's very cold. But the pattern's in place for what we call an overrunning type event, and where that cold air is prevalent through the column, it'll be all snow. But south of there in that pinkish area, that's where you're going to have your mixed precip or even some just regular and very annoying sleet. So this system moves on through. That's overnight Tuesday into Wednesday. And then that next feature, and this is going to have some wind with it. There's some isobars packed in here pretty good. Severe weather threat starting to develop on the southern part of this system. And then look, follow these isobars here, lines of equal pressure coming around that big fat ridge, which is way out here. And that is pumping Gulf moisture into these storm systems. And when I show you, again, I'm going to tease it one more time. When you see my little surprise for you, I was even stunned when I saw it. You're going to understand why all of this is starting to take shape and where we could be headed for spring severe weather season. Nevertheless, that system comes out of the plains into the Great Lakes states and eventually into the Northeast with a pretty good amount of snow and rain, obviously farther to the south. Then I want to turn your attention out here. Yes, some good snowfall even into the southern part of the Sierra, and that eventually makes its way in to Southern California. Yes, with that rainfall, which is definitely needed, there could be the substantial risk of mudslides and debris flows because of those fires stripping the vegetation. That is going to be a big concern. But right there, ladies and gentlemen, the sphere better have something on there. I better see it. I want to see it on social media. I really do. Celebrating the rainfall, because you guys have waited a long time. But look in here. This is your high elevation snow in the mountains of Utah. I would love to be at Bryce or Snow Canyon or vicinity. Wow. Anyway, again, I'll just do it virtually. I'll find it. I'll find the pictures on social. That's the good thing about it, isn't it? That storm system comes on in to the west, the Intermountain West, and then eventually, as we get to Saturday here, we could be looking at a really nasty setup in the deep south, and we'll examine that further when we look at the SPC. So basically, ladies and gentlemen, the country is going to be under a lot of active weather, and if you're flying, especially cross-country, these different storms are going to impact flight travel, air travel coming up, because different airports are going to be impacted, and then where it's not impacted now, it will be a couple of days from now. Plus, with the way the systems are moving pretty fast, we don't have any one storm taking its sweet time all over on the east side of the country. With that zonal flow, the storms come into the west, they move across the country really quickly to the east, and then you just don't have much time in between. So yes, air travel I think is going to be impacted quite a lot over the next week or so. So just keep that in mind. I mean, look at just this particular setup here. This is Saturday night. All right, so we're over the weekend, and all of your airport hubs up here in the Northeast Corridor are under some kind of nasty precip in one form or another. You know, so you're flying out west for something, that's going to create delays. I don't know what that was. Go away, Windows notifications. But yes, maybe it's agreeing with me. A very active pattern coming up. Now, for our friends up here in the Mid-Atlantic, you're going to get a pretty good snowstorm coming up. Lots and lots of questions. I know it happens every winter. How much snow are we going to get? I don't ever really worry about it. It's like if you know the setup is going to produce some good snow, don't worry about it down to the inch until it happens. Then you can go out and measure it yourself with a ruler. But by and large, this looks like a pretty good system to get some fairly wet, heavy snow across a pretty good chunk of the mid-Atlantic states coming out of Kentucky and across West Virginia through the Appalachians. And that one band in there, the GFS especially, is showing this pretty heavy band. I'm going to tell you something. You bring this just a couple dozen miles, maybe 20, 30 miles more to the north in the D.C. area, could be really hit much harder. And, I say that because that's obviously a big population center, and that is where I am headed. But by and large, everything I've looked at suggests easily, we'll call it 4 inches of snow across most of this area, and as much as 10 inches to a foot, depending on how things eventually do set up. A pretty aggressive period, almost a day's worth of snow, 18 to 20 hours of snow coming from almost west to east. So get ready. This is going to be a good plowable event, as they say. Some schools are obviously going to close. They handle it pretty well up here, but this could be some pretty darn heavy wet snow. And I am going to head up there tonight, and my destination will be over in the Silver Spring area. It's just what I chose a couple days ago. Sorry. That's not. I know I blew it. Silver Spring's down here. Don't yell at your monitor. I saw the belt line around Baltimore, and I just wasn't paying attention. Give me some slack. Anyhow, I'll be heading up to basically the Beltway. I just chose Silver Spring. Why not, right? And I figure tomorrow during the snow, I'm just going to travel all around here. Might head back down to Fredericksburg and back to Silver Spring. So this is going to be my area of coverage tomorrow. And if all goes well, I'll definitely have the vehicle cam running from inside the Tacoma. The Tacoma is our official chase vehicle for hurricanes, for hailstorms and winter storms. Usually we, reserve it for things like this. When we get a really big hurricane or whatever, we get a big rental truck. But that's a story for another day. But on top of this Tacoma, on our big hail guard that we've got, it's still there. We're going to make that semi-permanent later this year. Also a story for another day. But I'm going to have an exterior camera running because we're testing that. And this is what I do. I like to use the off-season and these big events here to do testing that can help us during other events, specifically hurricane season. So most of the streaming is going to be over Starlink, but we are going to put this exterior camera up top facing behind me. So I'm going to have the front windshield cam and then this exterior cam up on the roof. I just want to see how it does, and we're going to run that over our Verizon network. I just want to differentiate the two and see how they do. Anyway, like I said, it's a bunch of technical stuff, and I'm going to use this event to test it. But I will be on YouTube starting tomorrow around 10 a.m. We're going to go live, so be sure you put your notifications on if you're a subscriber to our YouTube channel, because you're going to want to... I did it again. Let's just do that. Now I can't miss. I'm so focused on telling you what I want to tell you, I'm not paying attention to the map. I will be all around here in this area tomorrow, back and forth. So I'll have my crap together by tomorrow. Believe me, I won't mess up. I'll know my maps tomorrow. I'll have Google helping me. Anyway, I hope you tune in tomorrow because that is going to be interesting. I've been through this area for snowstorms, but I've never covered one specifically, and I'll get it right this time, in the Beltway and vicinity. So please do tune in and see what's happening tomorrow. I'll show you. All right, headed toward the weekend. This is Bryce Shelton. Come on, if you don't know Bryce and Paige, here I click on the picture so you can see that dynamic couple there. They chase. I think she's a nurse, and she gets to do travel nursing, and that's a great lucrative career if you want to be a storm chaser, by the way, because you can pick and choose where you can work, and it's just amazing. But they're both educated in severe weather, and they watch it intently because they cover it too, like a lot of people. And this is a good graphic to kind of lead me into what I wanted to show you. Severe weather potential here for the southern states coming up, and this is important, over the weekend. All right, so that's still many days away. But this is what I was saying. We got so much going on in our lives. We have to pay attention to this stuff several days out and just be ready, be mindful. We know that we've seen some nasty severe weather in the south before, and we're in that pattern now. And I want to show you what I wanted to show you towards the end of today's update, which is coming up. I think it's locked and loaded that we're going to have a heck of a severe weather season, especially in the southeast. But for today, generalized thunderstorms, nothing really too worrisome. In fact, the tornado threat, the wind threat, the hail threat, all very low. Just general convective activity where you see the green. By tomorrow, Tuesday, that expands a little bit more. Well, I'd say a lot more. And then finally, by Wednesday, we start to see the ingredients coming into place with a marginal threat now down in the Gulf Coast states, or the I-10 corridor, or the I-20. And then finally, that day 4 through 8, this is what Bryce was looking at. This is day 6 here. And to see this on a day 6 in February, that is a huge, you know those eyeballs, that emoji where the two eyes are over looking that way? I need that right there. I need like augmented reality. You definitely need to be looking over those two eyes. You need to be watching that. You know what I'm talking about. Because this is a big deal. This could affect people's lives. So start looking into it yourselves. Start researching some stuff. Let people know that they're coming over for this, that, or the other. I don't know. Whatever your lives are, you got to pay attention to the weather. Because this could be a really bad setup. Because all the other dynamics are there. But the big thing that I'm looking at, this has really got me concerned. This, again, was way back on January 22nd, just a few weeks ago, right? January 22nd. I want to highlight that for you. Now, I'm telling you, if you're not sitting down, you need to go ahead and sit down when I show you this next tab. All right, so this is what we had. The cold air had come down. It had eroded all these positive anomalies away for the most part, even in the southwest Atlantic. All right, watch what happens when we go to yesterday. Remember, this map is always a day behind. This is basically now. Are you ready? You've been warned. Bam. What? Seriously. I saw that. I got in here to do my prep. I'm like, you got to be kidding me. That is absolutely remarkable. However, I am not surprised. And I don't want to, again, was it the last update? I patted myself on the back. This is becoming the norm when we get these big highs sitting out here over the western Atlantic. And again, it's that return flow coming up through the Yucatan Channel, seeding the Gulf with this deep, warm water, and just the overall lack of cold air advection. That's the lateral movement of air. No big fronts coming through. All of that is leading to this incredible change. This is where we were during the deep freeze and all that Gulf snow. I mean, remember that, right? That was remarkable. This is even more remarkable. And I'm really worried about this because all of that additional latent heat, this is well above normal. In fact, let's just dig in real quick. That blackish area, we are off the scale. 4 to 5 degrees Celsius warmer than average. The rest of the Gulf of Mexico completely filled in for the most part. And I remember Matt down at Wink TV. I don't know how you say his last name. Is it DeVitt or Devitt? It's probably DeVitt. He showed something like this with one of their graphics about how cold it got relative to average as this was happening. And I can't wait. I might ping him on the Twitter there. Say, look, you ought to revisit that. Because this is really, really remarkable. And what it does, it helps to seed these storms that are coming in through here. And eventually that is going to help to seed the storms of the Midwest during the traditional tornado season, which is not that far away. But very positive anomalies there in the Gulf of Mexico. And look, I want to say, this is going to be one of those, this is the only time I'm going to address it, and then I am never going to talk about it again. This is going to be like a dad talk. Like, I'm going to say it once, and then that's it. I know that President Trump renamed it the Gulf of America. I'm very aware of that. That's fine. He can do that. I'm going to still call it the Gulf of Mexico, and that is fine too. It should be. You may call it whatever you want. I'm not going to tell you what to call it. Don't tell me what to call it. Let's just leave it. Most of the times I'm just going to call it the Gulf anyway. But I have grown up 54 years, and I started talking maybe when I was 1, maybe earlier than that, considering how much I talk. And I've always known it as the Gulf of Mexico. I can't just change that. So instead of trying to correct myself, I'm just going to call it the Gulf of Mexico. It shouldn't be offensive to anybody, and that's the end of it. You may call it whatever you want. If you reply and go, it's Gulf of America, that's your right. That's fine. I'm not going to lose sleep over it, and neither should you. Let it go, okay? I call it the Gulf of Mexico, mostly the Gulf, and everything else, who freaking cares, all right? End of story. Never talking about that again. One thing I do want to leave you on, a great note here. This was fantastic. I saw this in my Twitter, and I was like, oh, I got to share this because I just thought it was very profound. It's an ad without it having to be flashy or any pictures or anything. This is just so effective. From our friends at QuickDam, they do the flood barriers through an amazing bunch of technology, fighting water with water. I love the tweet, insurance can't replace what's irreplaceable, prevent water damage with QuickDam. But then I like this quote in here. Given the choice, we would all choose prevention over remediation. Some things can't be replaced, choose QuickDam. But this really tells a deeper story here, prevention and also awareness, and you prevent your disasters in a lot of different ways. And that word mitigation as well. And education is a big part of that. That's why I do these videos. I want you to be aware. I know there's a lot of sources of information out there this day and age, and by and large, that's a good thing. But, like I've said a few times today, there can be too much. But at the end of the day, I want you to be on top of the weather, learn more about it yourselves on your own, and then do whatever you can to prevent loss of life, more importantly. And then, of course, any property damage that you can prevent is just a bonus on top of that. All right? So good message there to end things today from our friends at QuickDam. All right, well, that is about it from me. I will be leaving, going up the I-95 corridor here from Wilmington, North Carolina tonight. I got stuff I got to do with the kids this afternoon. I'm a family guy, and I want to make sure I enjoy as much as I can with the kids while I can. And I'll go up there tonight. I'll get to the hotel around 1 in the morning. The snow doesn't start until early tomorrow afternoon, maybe late morning, whatever. I'll sleep in a little bit, and I'll be ready to go. And again, please do tune in tomorrow. I think you're going to be really fascinated of me driving around the Beltway. And yes, I'll get it right that it's not Baltimore. And then down to Fredericksburg. Maybe that band is a little bit farther to the north, and I won't have to go down 95. But anyway, I think it's going to be fascinating. I hope you'll tune in. We will be live. My back-end team will get all that ready at 10 a.m. tomorrow morning for about the next 12 hours after that. Maybe longer. We'll see. All right, that's it. Let me get this online for you. Thanks for tuning in. From all of us at HurricaneTrack, I'm Mark Sudduth. I'll see you tomorrow from the D.C. area.